This is the winning ride on the Tour de France. Benjamin moves on it as Cadel Evans of Australia makes history today.
Welcome to another edition of the Detour Live. We're going to be recapping a big edition of the Tour of Flanders. We're going to chat with Stuart O'Grady, who ran third in 2003, and also Tiff Cromwell, who had a solid ride in the women's edition. I'm your host, Dan Jones, and joined, as always, by four-time national road champion Johnny Trevorrow. Johnny, you've got a pretty big episode today.
Yes, I got to say, I was so impressed with the Tour of Flanders on Sunday, the Ronde van Vlaanderen, and considering what they've had, the dramas with the pandemic the last 2 years, what a fantastic bike race! So I'm looking forward to dissecting all that. Of course, Stuart O'Grady, one of our legends, winner of Paris-Roubaix, and one of only, I think, 2 Aussies to get on the podium in the men's race, and Tiff Cromwell, who has been a star of Australian cycling for more than a decade. I remember as a young kid when she rode the Bay Quits. I think she was only 17, so it goes back a long while. But looking forward to talking to both of them.
Well, we pre-recorded the interviews earlier, so let's kick things off with Stuart O'Grady. Yeah, that's good because it'll make sense by saying that because you had the beers and you were running late and stuff. So, all right, I'll stick all that together.
Did you get any of David Dew in there? If you do,
all right. Well, we're joined by Stuart O'Grady. Stuart, apologies if he was running about 5 minutes late. Priorities, as you said, you thought he had a new microphone, but it was just a beer bottle.
Yeah, I thought it was some new technology there, which only Johnny would have known that was existing. Was a microphone the shape of a beer bottle, but no, it was an actual beer. So,
well, hey, I'm on holidays.
Well, Stuart, we brought you on to talk about Flanders. Now, one thing Iffy loves doing is going back through the archives, and we thought, look, why not pull out one of your best rides in a one-day race? Obviously, we know you won Paris-Roubaix, but you had an absolute belt in 2003, and I managed to dig up some old vision. So let's go back into the Detour DeLorean.
Roads?
Wow.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
2003 Tour of Flanders, and the late, great Paul Sherwin tries to get a quick grab with you, and I think the gun had already gone off, so you pretty much gave him donuts. We'll have a look at the highlights of the race and a recap after the race.
Stewie, great start to the season. Nice jersey. Tour of Flanders, race that you like.
Oh yeah, I mean you gotta learn it. You have to like it, otherwise there's no point really even taking the start. It's just one of those races like Paris-Roubaix where it can be a killer day, really hard conditions, pave, cobble climbs and wind. So I've got to go. The race has begun.
Van Petegem gets his second win here, and Frank van den Broek gets the second place finish. A repeat indeed of the result which they had back in 1999.
What a great move there by Van Petegem. He was worried though, Phil. I could see and feel the tension of the presence of Frank van den Broek, but when the acceleration came he could do nothing, and Fabio Baldato looks like he'll lead them in.
Well, Baldato being challenged by Stuart O'Grady. O'Grady's got the legs, he's got a podium place. An excellent finish for Stuart O'Grady. Nico Martin, Fabio Baldato on the line. Be a photo between the last two, Paul. But Stuart O'Grady has got his finest result in a one-day classic.
Stewie, we've been following you for a number of years right now, but to get up there in a classic like that must give you a lot of pleasure.
Yeah, it's by far definitely up there with the best races of my life. Tour of Flanders is one of the big classics, and yeah, today I just had to happen, didn't it? I mean, you're up there in so many races, and you just keep trying, and today it nearly came off with the biggest one, but third I'm pretty wrapped with, yeah.
But you must think when you go away from this, you won the sprint for third place so easily. A bit of a letdown, 2 guys in front.
You can't really look at it that way. Those two are out the front, churning away a lot harder than probably we were behind, and yeah, it was obviously would have been awesome if we did catch them, but we didn't, and I'm very happy with third.
This is the best start to the year you've had for a couple of seasons.
Oh, I'd say since I've been a pro, I think. They say you get older and better, so hopefully the next few years can get even more exciting.
Great stuff there from Paul Sherwin. I love the classic third, but you're pissed off you didn't win?
Yeah.
What are your memories of that day?
Yeah, a lot of pain. I mean, it's funny watching that. I haven't really seen much vision from back in those days, and don't you love the HD quality of the picture?
Yeah.
About 10 pixels per screen. But yeah, I mean, it brings back a lot of memories, that's for sure. I mean, it was really tricky days back then with Craig Cole. I mean, our team wasn't really based around the classics. I'm pretty sure I didn't have any teammates left after the halfway point. Pretty sure Hank was there up until about 80, 100K to go. So, it was pretty isolated, just kind of hanging on the wheels. There were some pretty big names in that front group with obviously Van Petegem, Vandenbroek, Bogart, like a lot of the big guys were in there. And I think Zabel was in there. I felt a bit lost. I was a bit intimidated. And all I can remember was, every climb I was literally on the verge of cramping and just hanging in there. And, that old saying, you just hang in there and keep on riding, certainly, was all I was thinking of. And then, to get so close, I mean, that was a massive moment for me that day. That was my first podium in a World Cup race. And it kind of really opened my eyes up to, I always dreamed of these, trying to dream of getting a result in Roubaix or Flanders. But when you actually do it, it really kind of gives you a lot of self-belief and, I guess in the hope and the dream word, but dreaming of winning a big one-day race in the future. So that was probably one of the best days on the bike in my career, to be honest.
Iffy?
Yeah, Stewie, you actually had a few good rides in Tour of Flanders, and later on in your career, you had a couple of rippers. What do you think is your best ever performance in Flanders?
Oh, I think obviously with the podium, I think only Phil Anderson, had been on the podium before, and I kind of used that as inspiration. And then, like I said, that was a really big day. And the problem with Flanders or Roubaix is that something happens. There's just no teammates, and a simple thing of just getting a water bottle or a gel. When you haven't got a teammate, it's almost impossible. You can't actually drop back to the car because the car is, probably about 2 or 3 kilometers behind. Back then we didn't have the same kind of soigneurs and assistants and helpers, shall we say, on the side of the road at the end of every sector, which were handing out bottles. And, there seems to be a lot more of that in the later years. So, if your bottle came out coming down one of the cobbled climbs, or you literally ran out of drink and food, you were stuffed. There was no one to help you. So, as I said, to be able to kind of hang in there, that was a big one. But yeah, I think Flanders was it was one of those just epic days. I loved the race. And like I've said many times, for 270 kilometers, it's like you're inside a Colosseum, and it's just a fantastic race.
Now, one of the riders, I'm pretty open with my knowledge prior to 2005 being really rusty. But one rider that kept popping up when I started working at Green Edge was Frank Vandenbroek. All the Belgians would often talk about just this legend on and off the bike. What was it about him that made him so special? Because he ran second in that edition when you were third.
Yeah, Frank had a very turbulent life, shall we say. He was, an extremely talented bike rider coming from an extremely talented family. And their whole families were treated a bit like godlike status. If you can picture, I don't know, our top footballers or cricketers, they're in that kind of the same mold. I mean, they've got the backing of the whole country, and he was kind of projected as a real young god. And he won a lot of big races at an early age. With that came a lot of Euros, and then, his lifestyle was a roller coaster ever since. And, he was always in and out of trouble. And, but, just when you thought he was in too much trouble, he'd come out and win a few stages of the Vuelta or do something ridiculously incredible again. And, and he'd come back from the brink of disaster. And I think, he just had this almost, Hollywood kind of lifestyle. And because of the media ups and downs, he was certainly one of the most highlighted riders in the cycling world.
Iffy,
Well, he was a very, very talented bike rider, and that's a very sad story. But going back to you, Stewie, that was actually you've been pro only 2 or 3 years at that stage.
No, that was I've been pro. That was my 6th year.
Oh, really?
I turned pro in 97. No, sorry, 90. What am I thinking? 95. I can't remember.
Okay.
95. So, yeah, I've been in there for a few seasons, but you know, in the early days with Gann, I was basically you know, domestique for Duclos LaSalle and Frederick Monkerson a bit later on. So, you know, Hank and I kind of carried the reins over into Credit Agricole. And, you know, later in there was Magnus Backstead, but, you know, Flanders was way too hilly for Magnus. And, you know, to be honest, most of my French teammates pulled out at either the first or the second feed zone.
What was your thoughts of this year's edition, Stewie?
Incredibly fast. Hard. I mean, you know, I kind of look at those races and think, man, there's no way we used to ride up those hills that fast. But just seeing the power, I guess that I think it's just a lot less controlled. From my memories, we used to control races pretty well. You know, especially in the later years with CSC and Leopard with Fabian, you kind of had those. And you had your Boonen and your Fabian, you had your 1 or 2 designated leaders from each team. And the teams pretty much just controlled the racing. Then there was a set period or a climb where we'd, you know, specifically attack. You know, that group went off the front and that was it. They kind of battled it out in the final. These days, it's just like, I don't know, they've ripped up the rule book and thrown that out the window. And it makes for great spectating, that's for sure. But, you know, the guys are just seem to be attacking so much earlier. And it's kind of almost a little bit crazy to think of how they can come up with these tactics in the room the night before. You know, Van der Poel and Alaphilippe and Van Aert, they just seem to. I mean, it's just the most phenomenal racing to watch from the couch, and you know, we've got 10, 15 great years ahead of us watching these guys race. I tell you, because I'm very glad I'm retired when I'm watching it on the TV from home.
Well, you said they've thrown the rule book out from a traditional tactics point of view, but geez, they haven't thrown it out in terms of 2 blokes were booted off for going the old biffo early on. But geez, you got to feel for that Michael Shaw who's kicked off for throwing his water bottle to the fan. I mean, turn it up. That's a bit stiff.
No, it's more than stiff. It's ridiculous. Look, you know, that isn't littering. I mean, there's rules, and then there's just things that are put in place which just don't really make much sense. You know, that's not littering. That's throwing a souvenir to the public. You know, in the Tour de France, you know, you throw one of those water bottles, and you know, there's 20 people fighting over them. It's a souvenir which people take home and they treasure. You know, if you'd thrown it into a canal, you know, where there was no people around, then potentially fair enough. That sits with the rules and regulations. But to throw it to a fan who he saw was there on the side of the road and which was actually running towards it, extremely harsh. I don't think I would have clicked out, to be honest. I would have just kept racing and argued about it later. But yeah, I mean, even with the argy-bargy, I mean, you know, I understand the Alpecin rider. Is it Alpecin or wherever?
Alpecin.
You know, yeah, I understand him getting disqualified, but then, you know, the so-called retaliation from the other rider was nothing more than a little, you know, how you going, and you know, just a little swing into the curb. I mean, if you're going to throw out riders that do that, then there's not going to be many riders left in the peloton.
Do you think it's harsh, John?
Yeah, I think it was ridiculous. Well, especially the Bidden one, that was just absolutely ridiculous. I know they've got really strict rules now. You've got your litter zones, and if you had to been just throwing your stuff out of your pocket, well, I think a fine would be fair enough. But he didn't even do that. He just threw a Bidden to the fan.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely ridiculous. The other two, well, yeah, I think the Alpecin guy probably. Yeah, he just jammed the brake. Why he did it, I don't know. He jumped. You're not allowed to chase anyone down these days. Jammed the brakes.
Evidently not.
Him off. Yeah, exactly. Bloody ridiculous. But I got to tell you, I thought the last 2 Ronde van Vlaanderen, which, you know, for the fans who don't really understand it, the Tour of Flanders, the Ronde van Vlaanderen, is such a big race in Belgium. It's as big as the Melbourne Cup is to us in Australia. The Ronde van Vlaanderen is to the Flemish and to all of Belgians. But the last 2 years, with the pandemic, with the COVID, I just thought, without crowds, it won't. It's been fantastic. The races have just been brilliant. Last year and this year, just two of the best editions ever.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely agree.
One of the other big talking points I saw was Peter Sagan. I didn't realise this stat. He's won 6 races in the last 3 years. The boss of Bora's come out and said, don't know if we're going to pay him the dollars that he's asking because he's up for contract. Where do you reckon he'll end up, Stewie?
That's a good question, Dan. Look, the poor bloke, he's dominated our sport for how many years? I mean, he's been the absolute number one draw card for any event. I mean, you mentioned Peter Sagan. I mean, we have him down here at the Tour Down Under and people flock to him. He's just such a personality. We really need guys like Peter Sagan. I mean, now we've obviously got Alaphilippe and Van Aert and Van der Poel and. But, Sagan was a real player and really dominated our sport for so many years. For his boss to kind of, quickly as he has, say, well, he's just not living up to expectations, and then runs, he actually had COVID, which I don't think everybody remembers. So to come back from having COVID, missing all the races in the lead up and still run 4th in Milan-San Remo, still win a stage in Catalonia. I mean, he might not be worth his 4 or 5 million euro price tag a year, but I just think that's the team leveraging. They can see an opportunity here to kind of how do I say this nicely, get rid of him. But I think that he's still probably a very worthwhile asset in any team. So I'm sure he'll find himself another role somewhere. It may not be his outright team leader. But when you're still getting 4th in Milan-San Remo winning races, I mean, come on, the guy's won 7 green jerseys, 3 world titles. Give the guy a break.
Well, this might be an opportunity for TDU to get him on the cheap now for next year. Get him all his confidence is low. Hey, look out. Hey, speaking of that, how was the wash-up from the Santos Festival of Cycling this year? Must have been a huge relief to get to the finish line.
It was a huge relief to drop the flag on stage 1 and to see all the hard work and the planning and the replanning and the replanning of the planning finally just get underway and see the guys and the girls. I mean, it was a really great week, to be honest. It's amazing how much work you can put into an event. And, again, it was all the team in the South Australian Tourism Commission, which we're doing all the hard yakka behind the scenes. But, just to get the teams in Adelaide, just to get, the little niche, I guess, positions of race radio to Adelaide. I mean, the borders were going up and down like a window blind. So, just to drop the flag on day 1, have the men and women racing from in the same start and finishing at the same finish. That was really cool on the same day. Had a really good feel to it, and I know a lot of people appreciate it, and it was a massive challenge. But look, at this stage, we're just planning for the World Tour event 2022, and going to come out bigger and better than ever.
I got to say, Stewie, I was lucky enough to be there, and I was so impressed with the event. I mean, sure, everyone was excited that there was a bike race, but it was a fantastic bike race. As you say, to have the men and women on the same starts finishes each day was really special, and everyone wanted a race. And so it was. You forgot after a very short time. You forgot that it wasn't a World Tour race. It didn't seem like it wasn't. It was brilliant. So well done.
Yeah, there was enough. It was great having just having Richie Port come over, and slog it out with 2 weeks quarantine with a young child and a couple of young kids. For him to do that, for the Michelin Bike Exchange team to come down. I think we had 12 World Tour riders. So every now and then when you flicked on the broadcast and you saw the pictures and You saw the Cervelo team and the EF Education. You saw those World Tour jerseys, and then you still saw the same infrastructure at the starts and finishes. It was just reminding everyone that the Tour Down Under is still here and we'll be back.
Yeah.
Well,
for sure.
Obviously, after last year, it's very hard to lock anything into place, but they must be relatively confident, given how much time from now until the start of next year with the vaccine rollouts, that you will go back to some level of normality or what you were used to in previous years.
Yeah, look, all we can do is plan for the World Tour race to go ahead, and then we're at the mercy of whatever happens with the rollout and the COVID rollout and the vaccination passport. So, all that we're just keeping a close eye on, but everyone's working hard already. Everyone's pretty focused on delivering the best event possible. So, I'm not going to try and speculate about what ifs again, because that'll just drive you crazy. So, I'm just planning on, delivering, the best TDU ever.
Well, how does it work with government money? Does it roll across? Like if they save some coin on some big marquee party sort of acts for the opening show this year, can they just double down next year and, have like your John Farnham, Jimmy Barnes, just go all out?
Well, I'm not sure, Dan. That's not really my lane. I'm not in the entertainment decision-making area. I'm on the course design and race director role. So,
well,
I'll no comment on that one.
You're the party manager for Team Bike Exchange, aren't you, John?
Yeah, that's right, mate. I just say, bring on the party, boys. Bring on the party. It'd be great. But listen, while we've got Stewie here, we've only just touched on Ronde van Vlaanderen. I think we should dissect it a bit more, because it was a sensational race. And Stewie and I were talking only the day before, and I'd picked Van Aert to win, but he just wasn't up to the day. But Casper, the friendly ghost, Casper Asgreen, wow, what a performance. What did you think of his ride, Stewie?
Yeah, absolutely dominated, didn't he? I mean, he was certainly coming off a lot of confidence. You just see the strength he had, and he was just quick to react every time Van Aert and Van der Poel attacked. He was straight there with them, and he just looked strong and he looked confident. So yeah, I mean, there was so much going on that it was kind of hard to focus on one aspect of that race. But when you got teammates in the final, that's always going to be a massive card to play. So as soon as Alaphilippe and Asgreen were in that front group, they were always going to be extremely difficult to beat.
Yeah. But what impressed me, a week before he won at Harelbeke, and it was the way he won that. He went away 80K to go. They finally chased me and he went again. It reminded me of Fabian Cancellara at his best. And I thought, wow, this guy, is great. And then everyone he didn't do that much in the Get Well game just the week before, and so people forgot him. But no, he was amazing, fantastic ride. But there were so many things happening. I was at one section, it was a fair way out, 56K out, when there was a crash and the whole stack of riders got held up. And that's where Michael Matthews, I don't know whether he actually fell off or just got stopped with it, but he was back a fair way.
Yeah, he got held up.
And then the whole team, look, it looks like there was 5 Team Bike Exchange in a line chasing, and they closed the gap and got back on, but they just spent too many pennies. I think Michael went too deep with all of that and couldn't react to the last part. But it was really impressive to see that, at least, that the team were still together enough to be able to. You don't see that very often at that stage of a Tour of Flanders, to have 5 teammates whacking the turns and closing that gap.
No, they did a great race as well. Bike Exchange right up there. And again, just have those numbers. It's a real bummer that Matthews was caught up in that crash, but that's Flanders. There'll be another one for him to have a crack at. But, I've got to say, there's got to be one really, really upset person that Paris-Roubaix isn't on this week, this Sunday's, De Koning Quickstep and Asgreen, because with this kind of form and confidence that you get out of delivering in a race like that is priceless. So, for him to win a Flanders like that out of just pure strength, and with the ride he'd done previously in that win as well, he would be absolutely fuming that Paris-Roubaix has been postponed till October.
Oh, sure.
Definitely.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
Well, It's always a pleasure having you on the show, Stewie. Thanks for the dissection of the 2003 Tour of Flanders. Great memories there, and all the best with the prep for Tour Down Under next year, mate. We're looking forward to it, getting back to bigger than better, and we can't wait for the government to double down on that cashola and have an even bigger, better party to kick things off.
Yeah, thanks very much, Dan. Thanks, JT.
Good on you,
All
mate.
right, Stewie. See you, bud. Thanks, Paul.
See you later.
All right, that's Stuart O'Grady. Iffy, we've got Tiff Cromwell waiting in the lurks, but it's time now to give a quick plug for the sponsors, and then we're going to bring Tiff on and chat about her Tour of Flanders. Do you want to kick things off with Let's Go Motorhomes, Johnny?
Okay, so this is going to be a little test because I left my notes behind, but I've got them written.
Oh,
so I'm going to go. No, I've got them here. So I'm going to have to click onto. So I will lose vision of you, but we'll see how we go.
Mate, how many times have you spoken about Let's Go Motorhomes? Surely you know what to say by now.
I do. Let's Go Motorhomes. Why not holiday in Australia's best motorhomes and campers? At Let's Go, they love helping people have incredible holidays. As one of Australia's leading motorhome and camper van rental companies, they have vehicles to suit all types of travellers for all kinds of adventures, and you can be sure they'll go the extra mile to make your trip the best time ever. Travelling in Australia in a camper van or a motorhome is truly one of the best and safest ways to experience everything our nation has to offer. A self-drive trip also offers a lot of freedom. Here are the 5 top tips to make the most of your motorhome experience. Plan, 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 and plan. One of my...
That's not even 5 tips.
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, and plan.
Mate, you need to rewrite this script. Let's be honest.
Well, I can do it 2 ways. I can say 4 top tips, or I can actually another plan in. Okay.
Well, you just rewrite it.
You may love spontaneity when it comes to adventures, but sometimes, I got the word right that time, sometimes travelling around Australia requires some planning, especially during peak times. The things Let's Go recommend look in advance are selecting the right motorhome or camper van, pick a general route, and accommodation as caravan parks and other paid camping areas are often booked out and in the busy times. So I reckon we've gone pretty well. If you need a helping hand with anything, just let's go. We'll plan it all for you.
You got there, John. I think we're going to have to step away and rework that script, mate. And Jayco Caravans.
Yeah, well, we do. We never have a script for them because they are Australia's biggest caravan company with 45 years of experience and history. The great value for money, Jayco RV is designed and built to give you years of enjoyment. It's no wonder that 1 in every 2 RVs on Australian roads is a Jayco. Find your freedom today. Great escapes start with a Jayco. Go where you want, when you want, so don't delay your next adventure. Every new Jayco RV comes with a 24-month warranty. I promise. Now, you know I'm reading the script now. I promise that your Jayco RV is free for workmanship or material defects, plus 5-year structural warranty to demonstrate their commitment to quality, longevity, and integrity of their manufacturing progress. With 29 Jayco dealers across the country, you're sure to find one close to you. Have a chat to your local dealer about the best RV for your next great escape.
And that's not too bad. I reckon we can get them a little bit tighter, but no, the guts of it's there, mate. And Mitchelton Wines.
One of Australia's favourite wineries and a place of escape. Experience the history, the beauty, and the serenity of the Goulburn Valley at your own pace. I'm up here now. I'm only a couple of K up the road in my cabin right now, looking over the vineyards from the iconic tower, staying at the new hotel, relaxing by the pool, recharging in the day spa, exploring the seasonal menu at the Muse, stopping by the Providor and touring the cellars, and, of course, tasting their signature wines. And then, of course, recharge by the day, relax by night, escape to a place of modern comfort and timeless beauty. The spa and the therapy options are sensational. Quiet the mind, unwind the body, rediscover balance in a setting of peace and harmony. Mitchell has become renowned as an amazing venue for weddings and for that special function, offering unique spaces for memorable events, so it can host your next function beneath that iconic tower. And then, of course, you have to go downstairs into the most amazing Aboriginal art gallery, the biggest privately owned Aboriginal art gallery in the world. And it's got so many amazing pieces of art. But of course, there it is, the $10,000, I'm guessing because I can't see it at the moment, the $10,000 range, not the Range Rover, a Land Cruiser with the €5 million paint job.
Euro? Jeez, that is a record, folks. It's gone from 3.2 Aussie to €5 million. Sensational. So get down and have a look at that. Yeah, you got there. Well done, John. All right, here's a quick word for our great mates at Bike Exchange. See you later, Stewie, who's in the lobby there. And we'll come back with Tiff Cromwell to dissect her Tour of Flanders.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match. But not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours, and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. Bike Exchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
Well, we've got another special guest, Johnny. What can you tell us about Tiffany Cromwell?
Well, I first remember Tiff was just a youngster. I mean, she only looks the youngster now, but gee, we got probably going back 12, 14 years, maybe. Bay Crits, and I got a call from her dad saying she had this young 16 or 17-year-old, I think she was, who really wanted to ride, and if I could help look after her. And I said, oh, yeah, okay, no worries. And she came along, and she was yeah, you could see she was going to be a superstar. And she's been one of our most consistent female road riders for more than a decade. And she's still, and she's been putting up some great rides in the last couple of years, but she's back and with a great ride, which she can tell us all about in the Tour of Flanders, Ronde van Vlaanderen, just finished.
Well, she joins us live now. Tiff Cromwell, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome to the Detour. Thanks for joining us. How you pulled up from Tour of Flanders?
Not too bad, actually. I surprised myself. I went for a ride yesterday and the legs were all right. So maybe I didn't go hard enough in Sunday.
Oh, I think you were thereabouts. Geez, when I was tuning in, it was getting quite late here in Australia, so I didn't see the final. But geez, particularly in the early parts, you were very prominent.
Yeah, it was. For me personally, I had a really good race. For our team, it wasn't quite as perfect because we didn't end up with the race or the outcome that we wanted. But you know, Flanders is always just a waiting game. It's about, you can't switch off because you have to be there in every segment, but you know, it doesn't kick off until usually around the last 50K, where it's really, you know, okay, game time. But no, it was a good day. I was able to be there to support our team leader, Kazia, right up until the Uderkwaremont. And then, yeah, the legs had no more. But it was nice to be back there because it's been a few years since I've had this kind of form, and to be playing with the front girls, and yeah, just enjoyable. And Flanders is as exciting as ever.
What did you do differently with your prep to get this form? We've spoken to a few riders that have done, you know, cyclocross. You know, I've done a bit of Instagram stalking. Looks like a bit of skiing in the offie. Was there anything that you tweaked differently?
Well, I'd say I've had the most different off season I've ever had this year. You know, obviously I wasn't able to get back to Australia, or well, I chose not to come because of the current situation, the quarantine and things like that. And I have a boyfriend, he's from Finland. So we decided to do the complete extreme opposite of, instead of 30-degree positive in the summer, we did minus 30-degree negative in the Finnish Lapland winter. So I for sure didn't have to prepare for the January races, which, although I always love to go back and, you know, race the likes of Bay Crits, Tour Down Under, Cadell's Sun Tour, it was also quite nice to have a bit more of a chill period. And yeah, so obviously we're in the very, very far north, kind of on the border of Finland, Sweden, and Norway. And so, okay, you couldn't ride. I did a little bit of Zwift because I had to kind of tick over the legs, but I was doing a lot of different things. I did some cross-country skiing, which, you know, is a really, really good full body workout, I've learned. We're doing some ski-doo, although I don't know if that counts as training, but it's hard on the legs sometimes. Snowshoe hiking up the local mountain, even some ice hockey I tried. So just a whole range of things that I think the combination of the extreme weather on your body and also just the different sports, it's really benefited me. And then I had a much calmer approach. So then when I got to the first training camp, I was fresh and I was ready, and, you know, then just built on that and create the endurance base. And then once I got to the races, I was just ready to go. So yeah, I'd say it's a whole range of things, but I think just doing something different, you know, when, as Johnny said, I've been around the traps for quite a long time now. When you do the same year in, year out, like when you actually do something different, it's yeah, that's just maybe what you need.
Yeah, Tiff, great to chat, Dale. It's been a while. I'm just looking behind you with that window. It looks like you're in a cathedral. You're not chasing a bit of divine redemption or anything, are you?
No, well, actually, the story behind that is, well, we have a house just above Monaco, and it used to be owned by the ballerina Rudolf Nureyev. I don't know if you know anything about ballet, but apparently he's quite famous. So, yeah, so then that design is the pattern of one of his foot movements of ballet, which the people we bought it from, you know, incorporated that as semi-safety feature, but also design aspect. So that's what that's about.
Wow.
There you go.
I saw it was a huge win for Annemiek van Vleuten. She's obviously in super form. I mean, how do you beat someone on her sort of level?
Yeah, you know, it's Annemiek, isn't it? You know, she showed those kind of performances the last few years. I think you just need to have one, a perfect day, and two, have numbers, which that's two things we didn't have. And even at the front, there wasn't really any teams with dominant numbers. Like SD Works went on their usual incredible form, and, you know, a few people tried, but it's either try to match her and go with her and hope for the best, or just try to have somebody who can cover and then counter. But she had the perfect legs on the day and the strength, and chapeau to her. But, you know, there's a reason why she's been world champion and won a number of races, because she has that massive strength.
I was just going to say, how hard is it year after year, once you've been in the pro peloton for a while, to get that motivation and that hunger? Like, how difficult is it? And do you have to do similar things to what you did in the off season to give yourself that re-induced sort of energy?
I think it really depends on the situation. You know, sometimes it's really easy. You know, if everything's going well, your form's good, it's super easy to be motivated, because it's, you know, it's the mental game. When you're happy, you ride well. When you ride well, you race well. Sometimes if things just don't seem to be working out for one reason or another, whether you're stressed, your personal life, just in a bit of a rut, then you have to stand back and say, okay, what do I need to change? Do I need a new team? Do I need to just try things differently? Do I, you know, need to change things in my personal life? You know, there's so many different factors, and at the moments when you're in the rut, it's really hard to actually identify it. And it's not until you come out the other side and things are just working smoothly, you're like, okay, what have I actually done differently? And like for me personally, because I've been through all those ups and downs, and it was just, I think, you know, I'd stress myself out too much and, you know, be worried too much. And then suddenly, you know, I just relaxed a bit and just went through the processes, and suddenly things just clicked. So it's really hard to pinpoint exactly. And yeah, everyone's individual, but it's kind of, you know, always having a goal to chase and always challenging yourself with different things as well. And yeah, looking for that new thing each year. So it keeps the excitement there.
Just going back to the Tour of Flanders on Sunday, which was a fantastic bike race. I'm just saying how the last 2 years have been, even we talked to Stuart O'Grady about the men's race just a few minutes ago, and we're talking about how great the racing's been, even with the whole pandemic and no fans. And I thought the women's race was just a brilliant race this year. And in the finale, I mean, you wouldn't have seen exactly what happened. You probably watched the replays like I have in the last 20K. But Annemiek only ever had about 8 seconds. I mean, in the end, it might have been 20. I think it was 26 seconds. They let it go in the last K. But it was around 5 seconds, 8 seconds. I don't think I've seen that for like 15 kilometres. That was quite amazing that they didn't close it.
Yeah, it's always funny how races work out. And, you know, she had a few things in her favour. One, it was a tailwind, which always favours a breakaway. And she's got a time trial background. So that for sure helps her. And when you got the finish line, you know, 10K up the road, of course, you just want to push, push, push. And then you're just at the mercy of what's behind. Like, I can't remember the exact dynamic of behind. I think maybe only one team had 2 other rides, but they're all individuals otherwise. So it's that you need everybody to commit full gas. And that's why it can be really, really close. But the second you get one little bit of non-commitment, you get that gap that goes again. So then that's what makes it the exciting racing. And also for one up front, they just have to hope for the best. The ones behind, it's like, okay, am I going to work with this break and not have the sprint at the end for the chance to the win? Or do I sit on, play the game, try to attack and bridge across? You know, it's everybody in that group from their team is expected to get the job done. So it's like they will be thinking, what's my best chance to try to get back for the win? And so that's why quite often you can see if it's a solo at the front, they can just hold on versus, you know, a chase. It would have been different if you had 2 at the front, because then they could have played games, you know, in the last K, and then they could have been caught. So, yeah. But it's good. It's great for, you know, the fans and everything else. And yeah, like you say, the racing in the last couple of years has been really good, and the level just gets higher and higher every year.
And a great ride by Grace Brown to get third. Is that the first Aussie to get on the podium in the women's?
No.
Gracie Elvin a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Thought you would have known that, John.
We haven't had anybody win Flanders, but I think she was second or third. But yeah, it was a fantastic ride by Grace. You know, she's really, really
sorry,
stepped up,
Gracie.
Yeah, she's really stepped up these last couple of years, you know, from last year already, you know, a few big results, and then, you know, this year taking a World Tour win, and now that. It's really, really good for, you know, Australian women's cycling. And yeah, I'm really happy for her, you know, obviously competitor, but also fellow Aussie. So it's always good to see Aussies riding so strong.
Given that your form's, is like you were saying before, it's quite strong. I mean, what are you hoping to achieve for the rest of the season, Tiff?
Well, I'm definitely, you know, looking to keep the upward trajectory. Like, my first goal this year was definitely just to get back to the business end, because it's kind of like, okay, sit down, let's be realistic. If I look at previous years, can't say, hey, yeah, I want to win this, that, whatever. It's like, okay, step first, get to there, which is where I've got. Now it's okay, I'm going to probably get a few more opportunities within the team to be a bit more of a protected rider, instead of, because often I'm the road captain or just a support rider, which I'm fine with because I know I can do that job well. But you know, now I'm starting to get that hunger back to see that I can play. So we'll definitely target some more of the one-day races with the Ardennes coming up. So we'll probably still stay a bit support there, but you know, some of the races later in the year, there's still the possibility of the Olympics. So we see what happens there, but it's always going to be a goal for me. But whether I get selected or not, it's another question. But then we have the World Championships in Flanders, and that's exciting, you know, looking at the strength that we have in Australian women's cycling. It's, you know, I'm really motivated to make the team there, and, you know, to try to be a really strong asset for the team and, you know, help bring home a medal, if not the jersey. And then I also have something a little bit different going on this year, as I'm going to do some gravel racing. So that's just something different to mix it up. The team suggested the idea when we did contract negotiations. So maybe try win a few gravel races is another goal.
We've seen that a lot more, even in the men's, like a lot more sort of cyclocross, you know, trend, particularly in the off seasons. Do you think you're going to find a bit more of an uptake in the women's peloton as well?
I think so, for sure. Already you're seeing it amongst the American teams. A few of them are doing gravel programs, and it still is very heavily based in the US. So that's why it might take a bit longer for the European teams to jump ship. But in terms of the sponsors, I think it's a really important industry right now, because for the mass market, a lot more people are getting into gravel. So they see the growth there, and, you know, the races are getting bigger and bigger, and it'll be cool to see more of a gravel program in Europe. But I I think more teams are definitely going to have a bit of a gravel calendar, just so it broadens the exposure for the sponsors, and also for riders. It's just something different, a bit more relaxed, but still really hard. So it can also potentially benefit your road performance. So I think we're going to see it keep growing, and more road riders also do some more gravel racing.
Now, Tiff, I was mentioning to you off air a couple of days ago, I was watching the Netflix series Drive to Survive Series 3. I was super excited because, I'm not a massive F1 fan. I enjoy playing it on the PlayStation. It's not a sport that I sort of diehard follow. And then I see my old mate pop up on the show, Tiffany Cromwell, because obviously your partner you mentioned before is Valtteri Bottas. Now, what I want to ask you is, what is it like? Because that series gives you a pretty good insight into the world of F1, and it is full on. I mean, what is it like having a partner that is racing the F1 circuit?
Yeah, it's actually, it's definitely different, but it's like being with any other professional sports athlete. For sure, their sport is really, really intense. This year they have 23 races. So each race weekend is, let's say, 4 days with a media day on the Thursday. So if you think about that time on the road, it's quite a lot. But I'm super fortunate with Valtteri. He's like incredibly supportive, and, we've been able to balance things and make the most of everything. I can go to his races and do my training and support him. And he's also been able to come to some of my races. And, we understand the mindsets of what it takes. But, when you see with them, it's minute details you're talking about to be the best. A thousandth of a second can be the difference between him and, his teammate in qualifying. But yeah, the hardest thing is, I think, when obviously you're there supporting and seeing the things that are out of their control. I think that's really, really hard to watch, because, with us in cycling, majority of things are in our control. It's up to us. It's up to our own personal engine body to do the performing. And, it's not so common you have, let's say, mechanical failures, versus with them, it's so much down to the car and having the luck and everything else. But yeah, it's definitely been interesting and eye-opening, but it's been a fun adventure, and, and we're still just enjoy being with each other, and then, trying to learn from each other as well, of what I could take from his sport and he can take from my sport to help, increase our own performances.
Iffy?
I was going to say, now I hear that he's a very keen cyclist. A couple of guys I spoke to have been out on the bike with him. They say he goes pretty well, but can you kick his butt?
On the climbs, 100%, yes. But in the sprint, he's actually a pretty handy sprinter. He's really got into the numbers now, and he's like, yeah, I got 1,300, 1,400 watts, and I don't go near that. So in a sprint, he'll destroy me. But I think the rest I have him covered, because I have a bit of weight advantage, and yeah, obviously when he comes to like the race time, he has to, he can't do so much cycling because it actually slows him down, the endurance phase. So more in the pre-season or during the lockdown that we had, or the quarantine period, he was getting really, really strong and, able to do a lot of the training with me, which was nice because, to be able to share that. But yeah, when he's in full race mode and I'm in race mode, then I still have the upper hand.
It must be incredible. Like, they have to deal with obviously a lot of G forces and so forth. So there's a lot of work on the core strength and reflexes and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of his gym training, big thing is the neck. So he has like the race helmet, but a weighted version, which is, I think, 5 kilo or something, where you just do like neck exercises. And then, yeah, a lot of just general body conditioning and yeah, like reactions and multitasking as well. Because, if you actually see all the things they have to deal with, it's like not only driving this car at 200-300 kilometers an hour, but then listening to the commands and then dealing with changing things within the car, like while you're going. There's a lot going on. So it's about being really, really sharp, really, really quick and responsive. So with that, you do a lot of that training, out of the car and in the gym. And yeah, it's been fun because I've done some of the exercises too. And, it's interesting and yeah, keeps you on your toes.
Well, the scene that you're in on the Netflix series, it was about there was some dramas with, I think, him and Hamilton or whatever, and there was people on social media. I think they must have been laying the boots in, but it appeared that you're very good support when it come to particularly on an emotional level, you know, blocking out the haters and all that sort of stuff. Given the scale of his sport, I mean, he must get inundated with trolls, as they say it online, and things like that. How do you find that process?
It's frustrating for sure, like, because people are so mean. Honestly, I never really experienced it properly. I've always been fortunate that 98% of my kind of followers have been really supportive and haven't had that. But since obviously being with him, and I get some of the stuff that he gets, and you obviously get tagged in some of it too. And the F1 fans are, you know, they're diehard to their people. And the thing is, you just have to not read it or just not let it affect you. I think I probably feel for him more than he gets affected by it. Like, but you know, of course, it's good to highlight the issues because people don't realize we're real people, and you know, people can hide behind a screen. And I don't know what goes through their head when you know, something like tell you you're a loser, or you know, you don't deserve to be where you are, and you don't know how to drive a car, or you don't know how to ride a bike. Like, I don't think you'll understand. It's not that easy. And yeah, it's the biggest thing is, you know, just don't let it touch you emotionally. Be like, okay, whatever. Just move to the next one, because there are still a lot of positive support and a lot of people, you know, backing. But yeah, sometimes you do bite, and that's kind of what that scene was set up to be. Because, and he's really good with it. He was just point blank, like, mate, you know, what makes you like? It was something as simple as, you know, just if I had the mentality that I wouldn't have got to the point where I am today. And because it's basically just somebody just being really, really negative. And yeah, it's just remembering that and trying to educate people that, you know, we don't have to be haters or be nasty, or, you know, with across the board, you know, even with like racism and all these sorts of things. Like, yeah, people don't realize that even if they're just doing a small comment, it can have a big impact.
Iffy? I was going to say, Formula One is just so different to most other sports in that often your biggest rival is your teammate. And in most cases, that is the case, situation. So they have their own little group look out for their car, but there's this great rivalry between the two teammates. How does he handle all of that?
He's actually really good with it. You know, he understands his position. But yeah, like, watching it, obviously, when you come from such a team sport, even though cycling has that element of individualism, but you're still collectively trying to get the same result. But, you know, he's got that massive drive. He wants to win. That's point blank, you know, how it is. But also he's got great respect with Lewis. So, you know, between each other, they have great respect within each other. They want to race hard as a team. They want to win together. But then, of course, they want to beat each other. So he's just, you know, that's his biggest motivation. And he's looking at every small detail with his side of the garage, because there's an element that they work together, you know, when it comes to their race meetings and the race strategies and kind of sharing the different data and stuff. But then once it comes to the race, you know, they kind of do their own race within reason, unless there's team orders and stuff. But, you know, he's good with it, but he's always, you know, pushing himself to get the maximal to try to beat Lewis. But, you know, he doesn't have any hard feelings against him. He's just, you know, likes it because it, you know, pushes him to the most that he can get out of himself.
Well, it's good in the sense that you're driving clearly the best car on the grid, but you're also up against one of the best drivers of all time. So, you know, it's a bit of a catch-22. But I mean, it must be good having that base. One of the other things that come out in that series is having a base in Finland that is so different to the hustle and bustle of everywhere else. Just getting away, getting out to the country. I mean, how good has that been for your mental health, particularly on the back of a year like last year, where a lot of people that were caught in these tiny apartments in Girona, particularly if you're a rider that didn't have a partner, you know, those guys must have really struggled, and having that ability to just get out, I mean, that must have been huge.
Yeah, 100%. You know, we were super fortunate. Like, the timing was borderline because we got there just as Finland were kind of closing their borders to non-residents or citizens. And everything happened so quickly. So with Italy first and Spain, and then Monaco was doing the same. I had some friends who stayed in Monaco the whole time, and yeah, it didn't seem enjoyable versus, you know, we're able to get to Finland, and we were like planning to go for 1 week. So I didn't even take my road bike. I just took my mountain bike. I was like, you know, we'll be right. It's all good. And then 2 months later, we're still there. But it really is, you know, for me, it's a bit like coming home to Australia as well, because I'm from the Adelaide Hills where we have space, you know, it's quiet, and there, you have so much nature, and he's got a small lake house. So it really is, when you come from a place like Monaco in the south of France, where it's, as you were saying, just apartments and people on top of each other, and it's just, full gas all the time. You just get there and it's just like breathe and a bunch of, fresh air. It's such, clean country, and like just so much nature. And it's the perfect place, when we do need a break or somewhere to get away. If there's been, some stress or some bad race or whatever, it's nice, and it's only a few hours away. It's not like Australia, which is 20 to 30 hours of travel away. So, very, very fortunate to have that. And, I've really been enjoying kind of being able to go up to Finland with him and enjoy the kind of Finnish culture and everything else.
Now, I saw on your website as well, Tiff, that you claim to be a foodie. Now, what's your signature dish? Because obviously in lockdown, you would have done a fair bit of cooking.
Well, when we had that lockdown, we kind of end up just having a meal for every day of the week. We started doing a cycle, but typically my kind of signature, let's say, is either pancakes or like avocado toast, typical Aussie. But during the lockdown, we had like meat-free Monday, Taco Tuesday, the Wednesday grilling, which was, barbecue. Thursday was Tie Me Up Thursday, which was Thai food.
I was going to say, this is a family show.
Then pizza periente, which periente is Friday in Finnish, so that's Pizza Friday, which we'd do like homemade pizza, but that was more Valtteri's signature.
Yep.
Saturday was salmon and salad Saturday, and then Sunday was Finnish Meal Sunday, which was Finnish cuisine. So that was our kind of signature thing. So it just...
Jeez, if that was a restaurant, that'd be a bestseller. That'd be like a Michelin star.
Oh, it sounds good to me. I'm there. Sounds good.
Yeah. Now, is of all the races you look back over your career, are the highlights when you get to pull on the green and gold, Tiff? Are they the races that you really take the most pride in?
Definitely. Obviously it's always special race with my team and giving the best for them with Canyon SRAM, but something special about representing your country. You're on the highest level to be able to represent your country, and in the biggest races it's always a very, very special feeling. And to get there and to be able to represent a country like Australia, it's not easy. You have to be on really good form and be the right fit for the team. So it's always been incredibly special.
Iffy?
So I've got a couple of questions to finish off. Firstly, what is your main target for this year in the next couple of months?
Main target? Well, I still have Olympics as a small goal. I'd half written off, but now with my latest form, it's, you never know, see how the Ardennes go. But definitely World Championships this year. That one will be a big goal because although the last few World Championships, they've been such hard courses that I've played more an early role, whereas I believe, this year is one that, can really have some fun with and, play in the business end again. So that's probably the biggest goal. Yeah.
And my second question is January. Can we see you back at the Bay Classic?
I hope so. Let's see what the situation's doing. But for now, the plan is to do Christmas in Australia at the end of this year, after missing it last year. So if I'm there, I'll be there ready to race. It's been a few years since the Bay Series. I did like 12 years straight or something. Yeah.
Yeah, you did. So it's been about 3 years, I think. And I've missed you, Tiff. So we look forward to having you back.
Too.
Well, maybe we can do a celeb event around the hot dog. Get Valtteri down there, just cut some laps.
Sure.
I don't reckon the insurance would cover it though. He would, but I think the insurance with that hot dog circuit, particularly those days when there's a bit of gravel on that second bend, probably wouldn't be a good.
His benefit is he's much better than most bike riders at feeling the tires, so he's got that upper hand.
There you go.
Good.
Yeah. Well, we wish you all the best for the rest of the season, Tiff, and we'll check in throughout the year and see how you're travelling. And obviously, John's got pretty big pool in Australian cycling. So if it's down to a few riders for the national selection, I mean, he could probably pull some string.
I'll drop you a few euros.
Or just send him a signed cap or something, Mercedes racing team, we'll work something out. Oh, great to see you, Tiff. Thanks for being on the show.
Likewise. Thanks for having me. Good to see you both.
Great to
Take it easy.
Bye.
Cheers,
Bye.
Tiff.
Cheers. Bye.
Tiff Cromwell, absolute superstar. Now, Iffy, anything you want to add before we go?
No, I thought it was a great program. I absolutely loved the Tour of Flanders on Sunday. I must admit that I sat up Saturday night very late trying to work out why I couldn't get on the telly. But it was on Sunday. But anyway, I did it again on Sunday. I know.
You've been knocking over a few too many microphones, mate.
all of that.
Yeah.
But a great weekend. Just a real disappointment that there's no Para Bay this coming Sunday. But, hey, it's going to be on in October and hopefully with crowds and all of that. So, we'll see what happens. But the Ardennes Classics all start not far away, and I'm really looking forward to those. So we'll keep all our listeners informed, and I'm sure you'll show them how to make sure they're right a part of it from here on.
Well, just keep logging on to youtube.com/the Detour Podcast. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and make sure you also visit bikeexchange.com.au because there's still some frames and stuff from the Green Edge run out sale, Johnny.
Oh, yes. There's still plenty of frames. I mean, we had 280 and we've probably sold, 50, I guess. So there's still a lot of beautiful Scott frames still to go, and some, a range of anything. Synchros, integrated handlebars and stems. I mean, they're normally about $600. I mean, I think they're going for around $200. So fantastic deals.
We'll be doing a couple of special episodes building up for the Ardennes, and then we're looking to go live every night for this year's Giro. Same format as what we did last year. So got some pretty big episodes to come, mate. And we'll be checking in with some big names both locally and internationally. So stay tuned for that, and we'll speak to you again soon on The Detour.
This is